Good evening, everyone. We have a great study tonight. We'll begin in just a few minutes. Um, Today, we're going to be finishing up reviewing from last week, and we're going to start a whole new article, a greeting that we received from Meishu-sama this week, A Boundless Love. This is great material, also answering many of the questions that many people have had these past few days. So, looking forward to this study session. Just ask that you wait a little bit until we begin. Thank you. So it's now 6:30. Time for us to begin. As always, before anything we do, before any study session, before any prayer, let us, in the name of Messiah, which is one with Meishu-sama, return to heaven that exists in the center of our souls and surrender all of ourselves, everything that we experience tonight, all the thoughts, all the feelings, all the questions. Let us recognize that God is using all of these emotions, thoughts, and feelings to receive all humanity who are alive within us in heaven at this moment, so that He can nurture us to be born anew as His children, Messiahs. Okay? Let us begin with the sacred oath. Sacred oath. With great fear of God, we acknowledge that the Lord God is our true Father, the one and only God. We revere Meishu-sama as the model for all humanity and as our own example to follow. Meishu-sama, who was born anew as a true child of God, Messiah, by receiving the divine will that God accomplished in heaven. We believe that Jesus Christ, who 2,000 years ago embodied the name of Messiah, the name most holy and high, is serving the Lord God in unity with Meishu-sama. We regard the messages of Kyosho-sama, who reveals to us the will of Meishu-sama in this material world, as the sole, absolute, irreplaceable foundation in advancing our mission here on earth. Words of prayer. God, I acknowledge that you are alive. Within me, you are alive. I thank you for nurturing me to be newly born as your child. May this blessing be shared with all. In the name of Messiah, which is one with Meishu-sama, I surrender myself to you. Please use me as you wish. So this is the hymn that I chose for the study today for us to keep in mind. The unrighteous are weak, for they cannot overcome sins and temptations that befall them. Meishu-sama. The unrighteous are weak, for they cannot overcome sins and temptations that befall them. So as we were studying during last week and during the morning services also, right, for us to be able to overcome these temptations, these sins, we must seek God, right? We must recognize that God is justice. And we can only overcome this through God, through the word Messiah, right? Which has the power to overcome any of this. So along with this hymn, we also have the sacred word that was published fairly recent. I believe it was this past month, the battle between good and evil. So that was a topic of our study also tonight. But since we just received this very fresh greeting from Meishu-sama, I kind of shifted that, and we'll do that at another time. And today we'll focus on the greeting from Meishu-sama. Okay? But let us keep this in mind while we study today, right? To be truly God-centered, as Meishu-sama said, live a truly God-centered life, which is what Meishu-sama wanted the most, is the only way to overcome all of these temptations and feelings of sin that come upon us. We're going to see this in the material also that we have selected for today's study, which has been split up into maybe it's probably going to be 2 or 3 study sessions, just to make sure that we can really go into it and study it, absorb the most possible out of it. Okay? Reviewing from last week. Last week we finished up the question and answer portion of the greeting by Meishu-sama when Kyosho-sama met with directors and ministers of World Church of Messiah in Portugal back in 2019 and overseas ministers. And we had a very, very rich question and answer section that we got to look into, right? That talks about, Meishu-sama goes deeper into this sacred word of Meishu-sama. And in the main question for this question and answer was a question made by the president of the church in Portugal, President Fernando, and he asked the question regarding the fact that we still don't have the translation to all of Meishu-sama's sacred word, right? And this has left people with a certain feeling of inferiority compared to members in Japan because of this lack of access to all of Meishu-sama's sacred word, the published translations. In regards to this, I'm going to go very briefly over these questions. Again, please go back and read the whole content just for tonight, so we can have a real general understanding, right, of review of what we did last week. Meishu-sama says, I too think that it is better for all of you to have access to all of Meishu-sama's sacred word. And I, together with Kyosho-sama, will do my best to translate them. I will continue to do the translations with Kyosho-sama. However, he says, whom did Meishu-sama receive the sacred word from? To whom does it belong? The question, a very important point that he left for us to reflect on. And he says in regarding to this, the answer is God. God prepared his sacred word and bestowed them on Meishu-sama. I believe this is the most important point because the sacred word comes from God. He exists within us. Not only within Meishu-sama, God exists within us. And the sacred word of Meishu-sama comes from God. We need to acknowledge this point before anything else. As I mentioned last week, this is a very deep point for me because for many years, right, I used to look at the fact that Meishu-sama received this revelation, right, these sacred words from God. but it was something um, only reserved for Meishu-sama. But here we can see how much deeper meaning of God's sacred word is, because God also exists within us. And these sacred words came from God, right? And God exists within us. So the sacred word of God also exists within us. That's a very important point for us to reflect on, right? And on top of that, Meishu-sama shared the following. What is the heart of Messiah, right? And Meishu-sama says there are millions of sacred words, but everything condensed is the heart of the Messiah. Meishu-sama shares the following. So there are millions of teachings of sacred words. There are many sacred words of Meishu-sama, but in a few words, they are the heart of the Messiah, or God. Messiah, or God, wants to unite with us always. Therefore, we need to accept that the wish of God exists within us. So, from my understanding, right, the heart of the Messiah, all of these teachings that Meishu-sama create, they all condense to the one sole wish of God. And the wish for God to unite with us always. And this wish of God exists within us. It goes beyond having the physical translations to all of these sacred words, but to understand that God is alive within us, and every moment is wanting to unite with us. How profound is that? One, that we are not alone in this world. We're not doing and living by ourselves. Whether it's impossible to do that, because without God and without God's permission, nothing would happen. Life would not exist. The very life of God flows through us, sustains us. And the very wish of God within us, unite with us always. That is the essence of Meishu-sama's sacred word, right? To be born anew as God's children, messiahs, and live with God in his heaven, uniting with God. He also brings another very important point for us to reflect upon this question. He says, another point is the God that exists within us perfect or imperfect? God perfect or imperfect? He's perfect, is he not? We are always completed by him. If we think we cannot receive God's wish completely because we do not know the entirety of Meishu-sama, God might say to you, you do not accept me? You do not believe I am perfect? So you might think, I am not receiving Meishu-sama's wish in its entirety. Or you can live your life thinking, no, I am completed. I am complete and filled with the wish of God, who is perfect. You need to make a choice. Choose which one within yourself. You need to choose. What do we believe? Do we believe that God is perfect? God is perfect and God exists within us, is alive within us. That makes a big difference than of an imperfect God, right? God that's always lacking. That kind of God can't be omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. Can't be the creator of all things, of all that is seen and unseen. Creator of all things, seen and unseen. This perfection of life exists within us. That changes everything. how we live our life, how we see Meishu-sama's sacred word, how we look to serve, how we see our feelings and our thoughts, doesn't it? Because if we think of what we lack, we will notice that there are always many things that we lack. But God is perfect and He lives within us. I believe this is a very important point. To acknowledge this is very important. Right? We have a tendency, we live in a very physical, material world. And the essence of this, well, not the essence, but the thought or the way we live in this material world is we're always seeking, right? We're always lacking. We always want more, right? Very materialistic. We want more, we want to gain more. And if we are always looking for something, we're always going to be finding something that we lack. But if we recognize that within us, God is perfect and is alive within us, we realize we don't lack anything because God is preparing whatever we might need at that very moment for us so that He can nurture us, unite with us at every moment. Wouldn't you agree? But to acknowledge this is very important. God is perfect and He lives within us. And this feeling of, oh, I like this or that, like the one in your question, surfaces, try to think, no, God is perfect. I lack nothing. If you think in this way, God will prepare what is necessary for you. I think this is very important. I also shared last week how blessed we are. The very fact that we have Meishu-sama as the head of the teachings, right? Joshu, master of the teachings, as it's translated literally. You can see how much God prepared, how perfect God is. Because we individually might take a lifetime to be able to read all of Meishu-sama's sacred word in its entirety. Right? All of those articles, thousands of articles. And after reading, then we might need a whole other lifetime to be able to process that and try to begin to understand its essence. But God prepared through Meishu-sama the position of Kyoshu so that we didn't need to do that. So that God, through Kyoshu-sama, could guide us in what we need to focus on. What is the essence of Meishu-sama's sacred word? So truly we can see how perfect God is, right? God not only existing within us, but within the center of our church to lead the divine plan, as Meishu-sama said when he created this position of Kyoshu, right? This is why we give such emphasis in Kyoshu-sama's guidance, Masaki-sama's greetings. Because for us to be able to really comprehend the essence of Meishu-sama's sacred word, it is vital that we do it through the lens of what Kyoshu-sama is guiding us. Or else it's just limited to our interpretation of what we think and what we would like, not really the essence of what Meishu-sama prepared and is sharing with us every moment. So, like I said last week, right, the very fact that we have the who we are is essence of all of these Meishu-sama's sacred words in a few paragraphs. And to be able to do something like that, Meishu-sama says to be able to see all of the sacred words as one and capture its true message is when we really comprehend what's there, right? And it's something that, honestly, my whole life, over 20 years as a member, I was never able to put into words or understand that deep. And nowadays, we're understanding because we have Kyosho-sama. So that was last week's study session. This week, we have an amazing reading that just came out. But Boundless Love, I believe is the title. Yes, Boundless Love, reading by Meishu-sama. It was shared in the September monthly service, September 1st, 2020, the Sacred Crowns in Natami. And in this greeting, we're going to see Meishu-sama addressing the very many questions that have come up during our study session. Many questions are being addressed in that, right? So the 3 pillars of salvation, Johrei, nature, farming, art, right? What does that mean to Meishu-sama? Why did Meishu-sama leave us that? Why did Meishu-sama share that with us, right? What is the true essence of why we're here? So the great material, I'd like to start this week reading it with everyone. And we're going to split up into a couple weeks because it's definitely we should take our time and go through it. Okay, so I'd like to begin reading that for you today. So, greeting by Meishu-sama, Boundless Love, September monthly service, September 1, 2020. Meishu-sama left us a number of matters, in particular, what we came to call the 3 pillars of salvation, Johrei, nature, farming, and art. We have placed importance on these matters until today, haven't we? Now then, Johrei, nature, farming, art. What exactly was Meishu-sama's wish, his purpose in leaving these for us? This is a very important question. What did Meishu-sama really want for us through these practices? For many years, I thought that Meishu-sama just wanted us to share these practices with as many people as possible. And for us to expand and grow as a church would be the amount of people that were practicing and living this way of life through Johrei, nature, farming, and art. But nowadays, I can see how much superficial that understanding was. And today, I think that this becomes really clear through Meishu-sama's greeting. He continues. When we say nature farming, we think pesticide-free. In today's world, there's an increase in what we call pesticide-free, natural, or organic production. Related to that, we hear about toxins in medicine. Even in today's world, if you developed a fever, a regular doctor may not give any medicine and say that it is better for the fever to take its course. I believe this kind of thinking is gradually increasing. With Johrei, too, we think about raising the hand to heal, that the hand has the power to heal. While not called Johrei, through energy healing and things of that nature, it is often said that humans have that kind of power, and that by raising the hand, the body becomes well. I believe there's a growing acceptance for these kinds of concepts by the general public. Really, today we can see, right, so many different methods of organic or pesticide-free farming. So many different healing groups that exist, different ways to bring about this kind of healing result, right? Extraordinary. Compared to Meishu-sama's time, I think it's for a person at that time to think that the world would be so open to these concepts today would be unfathomable at that time. But today, for us, it's become so common, has it not? Or when we talk about art, we think about flowers. Even in today's world, we hear about people arranging flowers and how those who look at them are comforted. In so many schools, right? So many different styles of flower arranging, right? Of appreciating art. Are there not? Or art in itself, a work of art. It is common to hear that artworks are necessary for the cultivation of emotional development. So, does the increase of these ways of being mean that Meishu-sama's purpose in leaving Johrei, nature farming, and art is being fulfilled? What a question, don't you think? Like I mentioned at the beginning, before I started reading, I used to think that when all people were practicing this is what Meishu-sama's purpose was. Meishu-sama's purpose was being fulfilled. If the whole world were to be practicing Johrei, nature farming, and art, the increase of this concept. I do not think so by any means. Meishu-sama left us numerous matters, and particularly what we came to call the three pillars of salvation: Johrei, nature farming, and art. We have placed importance on these matters until today, haven't we? Now then, Johrei, nature farming, and art. What exactly was Meishu-sama's wish, his purpose in leaving these for us? This is the most important question, I think, right? And I think it's a question that we've gotten many times in our studies. I've received them indirectly, I've received them live, right? If we are to practice what Kyosho-sama is saying now about Sone, right? Because Kyosho-sama has been reminding us that Sone is more important, as Meishu-sama says. We're no longer, Johrei is not as important now. We're in the age of Sone. Then questions like, well, what happens to our practice of Johrei, nature farming, and art? Right? We cease to do. They no longer exist. But I think before we even look into that, we have to address this question that Masaki-sama is giving us. What exactly was Meishu-sama's wish, his purpose in leaving these for us? Wouldn't you agree? If we don't look at Meishu-sama's purpose, Meishu-sama's wish for sharing this with us, then what exactly are we seeking to practice? Are we not seeking to practice Meishu-sama's wish? But we have to ask, what was Meishu-sama's wish, his purpose in leaving these for us? When we say nature farming, we think pesticide-free. In today's world, there is an increase in what we call pesticide-free, natural or organic production. Related to that, we hear about toxins in medicine. Even in today's world, if you develop a fever, a regular doctor may not give any medicine and say that it is better for the fever to take its course. I believe this kind of thinking is gradually increasing. With Johrei, too, we think about raising the hand to heal, that the hand has the power to heal. I think we repeated, I'm sorry. While not called Johrei, through energy healing and things of that nature, it is often said that humans have that kind of power, that by raising the hand, the body becomes well. I believe there is a growing acceptance of these kinds of concepts by the general public. When we talk about art, we think about flowers. Even in today's world, we hear about people arranging flowers and how those who look at them are comforted. or art itself, a work of art. It is common to hear that artworks are necessary for the cultivation of emotional development. What if, for example, in the future, the time comes when the entire earth produces pesticide-free crops? Everyone says pesticide-free crops are better for the body. They are good for one's health. Oh, how great! With this, humans are living longer. But if that were only to be better human health, for the good of the human body, and if God did not exist in the picture, I do not think Meishu-sama would be happy at all. Right? If these methods were just to increase and better our lives, then, without us recognizing God, they are meaningless. Meishu-sama didn't show us these practices for us to focus on the practice, but to focus on God. It is true that Meishu-sama emphasized pesticide-free, fertilizer-free, and such like. At the beginning, Meishu-sama did not use the name nature farming. Rather, cultivation without fertilizers. Did you know that? Originally, it was not called nature farming. It was cultivation without fertilizers. But what he was asking us throughout was, who is cultivating the crops? The fertilizer or God? Through nature farming, he was asking us this question. By us removing the fertilizer, we can see that it's by the power of God that nature evolves, right? That those crops are being cultivated. Wouldn't you agree? With no added power, no added strength, just by the power of God. Meishu-sama was trying to show us God being alive. The growth of crops, is it because humans use fertilizers that crops grow and humans can eat those crops? It is not that. Meishu-sama wanted us to know in every way possible that God exists and that the main character who grows the crops is God. It is by the will of God that crops are made. For this, I believe, he revealed to us nature farming. I'm going to read that again. Okay? The growth of crops, is it because humans use fertilizers that crops grow and humans can eat those crops? It is not that. Meishu-sama wanted us to know in every way possible that God exists, that the main character who grows the crops is God. It is by the will of God that crops are made. For this, I believe, he revealed to us nature farming. It is by the will of God that crops are made. Medicine is the same. Is it the medicine that heals the human body, makes it better, and sustains it? Or is it God? Which one? Meishu-sama wanted to ask us. So he spoke about toxins in medicine. I don't know if you were aware today during the morning prayer, Reverend Felipe was also reading this material and he made a very good example. for us to reflect on. Sometimes you have two patients with the same age, same conditions, same body type, receiving the same treatment for the same illness. Why is it that one might heal and one might not? What causes the body to truly heal? Yes, medicine is important, and God created medicine. Nobody is denying that. Nobody's denying that you need to go to the doctor. You go to the doctor. But the owner of our life, the one who governs our lives, is God. How many millions of cases have there been where they're referred to as hopeless, terminal, and by some unknown, unexplainable miracle, there is a healing? And I think that we need to go even a step further. We focus on the fact that the person was healed or not. The person lived a few years more or not. But I think even then, our focus can be so off. We should be focusing on God. Rather, whether the person is going to live longer or not, whether we're going to live longer or not. Do we recognize that this life of ours belongs to God? Are we able to recognize when we are receiving a medical treatment that God is alive within us, going through that process with us? Going a little bit off the script here, but I don't think that there is a problem with receiving medical treatment. I think that the problem lies in thinking that our life will be governed by that treatment. Our life will be governed by that pill or that surgery that we're thinking. And we forget that our life belongs to God. And God is alive within us. Meishu-sama wanted us to seek God in every aspect. In nature farming, it's very clear, right? If you pull your strength away and you just let nature take its course, you can see this life and energy of God nurturing all of nature. That's the same life and energy nurturing us. Only what are we being nurtured for? What does God want from us? How to serve Him? I think that's the question we have to start asking ourselves more. So, as Masaki-sama says here, Meishu-sama wanted to ask us, right? Who's sustaining us? The medicine that heals the body, makes it better, and sustains it? Or is it God? Which one? Meishu-sama wanted to ask us. So he spoke about toxins in medicine. Or how about Johrei? He said that Johrei can be proven by science. Through the raising of the hand by a human being, they have this power to heal. And the human body gets better and little by little lives longer. But that is not what Meishu-sama meant. What he meant when he said Johrei can be proven by science was that God exists. God can be proven. He said this with absolute conviction. He wanted to show us that science can most definitely prove the existence of God. In today's world, we live very polarized ways of seeing the world, right? Where spirituality, faith, religion is one end of the spectrum and science is another. Is it not? And either you believe in science or you believe in God. Right? You have to choose. Which one is it? Are you for evolution or are you for creation? But Meishu-sama was showing the opposite. Science can most definitely prove the existence of God. For God created science for that purpose, to show God. To simply say, humans have been raising their hands for healing since long ago. There are also things like energy healing. Through these, human health becomes better. Has no meaning to Meishu-sama. Through Johrei, Meishu-sama wanted to prove through and through that God exists. The fact that human health becomes better through Johrei has no meaning to Meishu-sama. He wanted to show that God exists. Not just a healing. Not just a better physical condition. When I was in college in Japan, I took some classes in religious science and history, and I was really kind of shocked when I realized that this concept of raising a hand for healing existed centuries, maybe thousands of years ago. For many years before I studied in university, I thought that Johrei had been a creation, something that Meishu-sama came up with. Meishu-sama found out how we could do that. But we see all these different modalities nowadays practicing this healing technique. And we see in history, in many different cultures, in religions, that the raising of the hand brings about a healing. But what Meishu-sama wanted to show with Johrei was not just another method of healing, but a method that proves God exists. Meishu-sama wanted us to focus on God. This goes for flower activities too. Even if many people were beginning to arrange flowers and say, this is comforting. Oh, flowers are beautiful. Humans are amazing existences. I think this would bring no joy to Meishu-sama. Let's look at that thought process, right? Flowers are beautiful. Flowers are comforting. Humans are amazing existences. The center of this kind of thinking is centered on human, not centered on God. What's pleasing to us humans, what we like, what's good for us, how we enjoy. But where's God in that picture? I think this would bring no joy to Meishu-sama. Why? Meishu-sama said in his hymn, "Oh God, every time I see beautiful flowers, I think of you. I think of how masterful you are and how marvelous yet mysterious your skill is." Look at the difference in Meishu-sama's point of view when he admired a flower. He was not admiring the flower. He was seeing God. Every time I see beautiful flowers, I think of you, God. I think of how masterful you are and how marvelous yet mysterious your skill is. When we look at a flower, not just to admire that beauty of the flower, but as Meishu-sama, pondering, reflecting, and remembering God alive within us. I think they're two completely different ways of seeing a flower. The regular, common way nowadays, where we just enjoy its beauty, enjoy it changing the atmosphere around us. And then the other one, like Meishu-sama, seeking God through that flower. Oh God, every time I see beautiful flowers, I think of you. I think of how masterful you are, and how marvelous yet mysterious your skill is. Each time he looks at a flower, he thinks of God's divine skill. He felt God's skill that could not be expressed in words. And this is what each time he looked at a flower, he said, every time I see beautiful flowers. Each time Meishu-sama looked at a flower, he thought of God. This is completely different from how I used to look at flowers. Why? Because I used to look at flowers and see how nice they made me feel. Right? I used to think that the role of flowers were to be put in a room to absorb the negative energy in that room. That's how I learned. I used to think that the flowers were there to serve me, my needs, my joys. If I was depressed, I put a flower. If I was happy, I would put a flower so that I could enjoy, so that I could live in a nicer, more beautiful environment, so that I could share that beauty in that environment with more people. Look at Meishu-sama's view. So much deeper. Every time I see beautiful flowers, each time Meishu-sama looked at a flower, he thought of God. He was not putting them there so he could appreciate them. He was putting them there looking at God. If we are to do flower activities, this posture of Meishu-sama must unquestionably be the basis, the essence of those activities. So when we look at a flower, we can think just like Meishu-sama. Ah, God the Creator exists, and He is making such wonderful things for us. People usually do not say it like that in this world, do they? It usually just ends with flowers are pretty, how comfortable, how comforting. Nobody is negating the practices that we learn. But with what thought, with what tone, with what purpose are we doing these? If we were going to do some flower activity, what purpose? Same thing if we're going to plant vegetables outside. Are we planting just so we can eat? Just so we can enjoy? just so we can have cleaner vegetables without pesticide? Or are we interacting with nature at that moment, seeking to recognize God? That God exists, that God is making that happen. That God is allowing us to experience that moment. See God. Changes everything, doesn't it? Changes the way we look at the world. When it comes to art, too, for the world to become peaceful and most of humanity comes to enjoy art. To say this artwork exists or that artist existed. To learn and enjoy art on a human level is not the reason why Meishu-sama revealed to us the activity of art. Meishu-sama was showing us art at a divine level, not to enjoy on a human level for our pleasures, to enjoy the artist or the art piece. Much deeper than that. Meishu-sama says in one of his hymns, I will collect all artworks that exist in the world and show you what the innermost part of heaven looks like. Who's the innermost part of heaven? Is it not God? Meishu-sama was collecting all this artwork to show us God. Was he not? He said he will collect all artworks that exist in the world and show us what the innermost part of heaven looks like. Meishu-sama wanted to teach this to us. That is to say, he revealed to us the activity of art to teach us that heaven exists within us. It was not for us to know art, appreciate it, or be healed by it on a human level. Meishu-sama was showing us heaven itself within us. That's where Meishu-sama wanted us to focus. For many years, I used to go to museums and enjoy the art, enjoy the artist. I used to, as many I believe that by enjoying good art, I would elevate my soul. It was beneficial to me in a human level, in my own personal level. But Meishu-sama was showing us heaven, that heaven exists within us. It was not just for us to appreciate it or know art in a human level. In every aspect, Meishu-sama wanted for us to remember heaven, to know that heaven exists. The deepest, most beautiful part, the most wonderful place exists. He wanted for us to realize this in every way possible and try to awaken us through works of art. I always thought, when I thought about art, that heaven was a place of art, right? A place of beauty. And I always thought it was a place for my enjoyment, right? For the world's enjoyment. But that was now looking through this reading from Asaki-sama and from Kyoshi-sama's guidances, it's become clear that the order of importance was inverted to me. Heaven was a place of art, is a place of art, a place of beauty, for my enjoyment. That's how I used to see. But to be truly God-centered, right? This place of art, this place of beauty exists for us to seek and see God. It's the opposite. Meishu-sama showed us the prototype of the sacred grounds, which we're going to go into the other part of the study, in the art museums, and everything, to remind us that heaven exists within us, that God is alive, for us to see God. And I believe it's the same when Meishu-sama started saying, from now on, Johrei is not as important. Zoning is more important. Pray in your hearts. Meishu-sama was taking our focus from the physical activity of healing to the main essence of God that is alive within the center of our soul. I can truly say that for many years, even though I was seeking a faith in God, even though I was seeking to grow and fulfill Meishu-sama's wish, it was centered on my human self and what I believed that was, what I thought that was. And today I can see how much deeper Meishu-sama was really trying to show us. What Meishu-sama was really trying to show us, thanks to Kyo-sama's messages, Masaku-sama's greetings. To recognize that God is alive and existing in the center of our soul. I think we say it very, very readily, very easily, very lightly. But that's a very, very, I think, difficult point to grasp in all levels. In reading up to this point, you can see that Meishu-sama was using everything that existed in the world around, everything that existed to show us that God is alive. Heaven exists. And if Meishu-sama needed to show us through all these things, through art, through nature farming, through Johrei, that God is alive, then it makes me reflect in reality how much we don't notice and recognize that God is truly alive and existing in the center of our souls, in our daily lives. Because if we truly recognize that, maybe someone wouldn't need to use all of this for us to recognize that. But as Kyo-sama says in one of his hymns, all of creation is serving in God's purpose for us to return to God and be born anew as children of God. I think Meishu-sama was showing us that through all of nature, all of creation, for us to really grasp that point. God is alive. God exists. I've kind of off topic, but dealing with many people, right? And in our own life, daily life. When things go well and things are good, it's easy for us to say, God is alive. God is good. God exists. I'm blessed. But when the world gets dark, apparently, and things go wrong, not according to what we're planning, and we don't see solutions to what we would like, is it not easier for us to say something bad is happening to us? There's some bad energy, some bad thought coming my way. And how fast do we turn that switch where we forget that God is alive and God exists? God has a greater purpose. God is alive within us, nurturing us to see God, to live with God, to unite with God. God so wishes. So truly receiving this greeting, I can say that for many years, and still today, very, very difficult to accept that God is alive at every moment. God exists. And many times I take everything around me that exists to recognize God and serve God, and I use it for my own benefit, for my own pleasure. The very fact that we lived our day today and we went about our business. How many times do we stop to recognize that God is alive and that everything around us exists for us to see God and return to God and serve God through that process? Or how many times did that go blank? And we just lived our day enjoying or going through our feelings and our thoughts during that day, serving our needs. So we can see how much Meishu-sama wanted to show us that God exists through everything. It was not just an idea of increasing the number of people practicing these activities. Much more. It is much more. And how great our mission is right now to pass this on. I'm going to stop here today. We have another maybe 2 studies to finish this, probably 1.5. So look forward to everybody next week where we continue, where we picked up today. This material is on our website. It is on Facebook. It's also, it was revised just yesterday. We received a new copy. It's been posted already on our site. Make sure you get the latest version to study. Okay, so we have the same version that we're looking at. I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.